Fight, Race, and Faith. Hello, my friend. This is Clyde. Assessments can make or break you. You are part of an elite group of guys who were hired by this large company. There were 4 divisions to which each of these employees was assigned: finance, marketing, research, and community relations. The plan was that after 1 year, they would conduct a rigorous evaluation, and only those workers who scored 95% or higher on their overall assessment would be retained and promoted. The evaluation exercise entailed you doing an assessment of yourself and one outside person who is strong in each of this area to do the final assessment. For you personally, you worked hard, or at least that's what you think. Your self-evaluation scored high marks across the board. But what did your boss feel about you? The evaluation exercise is done and you did not make the cut. Well, they were considerate in that regard. Instead of dismissing you entirely, they have put you on a 6-month probation in the same division, after which time you will be evaluated a second time to determine if you can be hired permanently. The great apostle, Paul, was estimated to have been in full-time ministry for approximately 35 years and died at the ripe young age of 68 years old. Meanwhile, the new pope was elected at age 69 and he is regarded as a young pope. Paul's 35 years of ministry were hectic. Paul was the energizer bunny of Christian ministry. Do you remember the mandate he was given by God 3 days after his dramatic roadside conversion? Right there in Acts chapter 9, we read how God sent Ananias, one of the Christian disciples in Damascus, with the following message: "Go, this man is my chosen instrument to proclaim my name to the Gentiles and their kings and to the people of Israel. I will show him how much he must suffer for my name." Acts 9 and verse 15. Paul had a short time to ponder what lies ahead of him, whether he thought God was giving him too much or just enough work. On top of that, he was being sent to the Gentiles and their kings and to the people of Israel. Wouldn't that translate to be a conflict of interest, given that there was no love lost between the Jews and the Gentiles? I think I would have been asking God to revise downward my load because this sounded heavy. Paul never did. Over 35 years, this late-term apostle had quite an impressive resume. 4 major missionary trips, each involving extensive sea and land travels. The brother was arrested at least 3 times that we read of in the book of Acts, but by his own admission, he was arrested far more than those 3 instances, and some of them involved being heavily chained to prison walls. He wrote 13 epistles, established as much as 14 churches. For 40 further details of the litany of horrible experiences he had, let me recommend you read 2 Corinthians 11 verses 16 to 33. It reads like a bestseller book. Paul had his challenges, but not once did we read about him wanting to quit ministry. You know the famous account of the thorn in the flesh, and he pleaded with the Lord to rid him of that affliction. You could never imagine God would allow one of his choice servants to endure such hardships and at such great degrees. Instead of healing him or removing it, whatever it was, God told him that famous response: "My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness." 2 Corinthians 12 verses 7 to 10. Paul just kept on keeping on. Now for the real purpose of today's message. It's not about Paul, it's about you. Paul was under house arrest in Rome, and it was very clear that he was going to be executed on account of his faith. He wrote 2 letters to his prodigy Timothy, who he groomed to serve in a church later. But listen to what he reserved for the end of the second letter. For I am already being poured out like a drink offering, and the time for my departure is near. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. 2 Timothy 4 verses 6 to 8. That was Paul's self-assessment. To some, he might be seen as brave, bold, courageous, but on a deeper assessment, you ought to examine what he said. He said, I've fought a good fight. This brother was persecuted and faced great odds in the worst ways, and here he's talking about fighting a good point. Okay. Number 2, he said, I have finished the race. What? Only victors can boast like that. Paul seems to suggest that he was constantly in evaluation, but here he is saying he has finished the race, and he believes finished well. Thirdly, he says, I have kept the faith. Brother Paul was not discouraged sufficiently for him to walk away, for him to curse God and die, for him to abandon the work that God had called him to. Paul, you are full of confidence. And now what about you? If you were given a chance to do an assessment of the kind of life you have been living in recent times, what would you say of your service to God before you heard God's report? What would your assessment be of you staying grounded in Jesus and not being swayed around by competing faiths? How would you assess your race, your fight, and your faith? This might be a wake-up call, and you will walk away with a new self-evaluation, and you will start serving God with more commitment and dedication, and strongly desiring to reach the lost.